Okay, so in this video, we're going to go through the second page of the note sheet, which is going to involve actually solving right triangles for missing information. So let's get into problem number 1 here. Clearly, we are looking for x, okay? And we know that we have a 30-degree angle here, and we know that this side is 3. So the first thing that I would do is, knowing that this is my reference angle, I want to label the two sides that I'm given. So here's my little right angle. So if I go across, x is actually the hypotenuse. This little side, which is labeled 3, is right next to the 30-degree angle. So this is my adjacent side. So now, which of the trig functions uses hypotenuse and adjacent? Now, one thing I will tell you is there's actually 2 of them. Please don't use the reciprocal functions when you're trying to do these. The reason being is you're going to be using a calculator to find these answers, or you're going to be using some kind of technology, and it's actually easier to use either sine, cosine, or tangent, not secant, cosecant, or cotangent. So if we remind ourselves of TOA, we want the h and the a, which means we're going to be using cosine. So we're going to set up a little equation here. We're going to say the cosine of our reference angle, so 30 degrees, is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. And now we want to solve this thing. So one of the things that helps to do this type of solving is when we're looking for one of the sides is actually to cross multiply. Okay, so we're going to do, let's see, 3 times 1 is 3. We're going to cross the other direction, so x cosine of 30. So I can divide both sides by cosine of 30. And now what I need to do is put this division problem into my calculator. Now I have TI calculator sitting on my table with me. You may or may not. If you do, awesome. If not, well, let's use your iPad with the technology. I'm going to do half of the problems with Calculate 84, which is the TI emulator, and then I'm going to do half the problems with Desmos, so hopefully, depending on which one you're working with, you can have either. So I'm going to go ahead and open up Calculate 84 for this one. All right. And basically, before we even do anything in the calculator, I want to check to make sure that we're talking about degrees. So I'm going to go over here and hit mode. And the third thing down is either radian or degrees. And in my case, I've already got degree highlighted. If you don't, scroll down, scroll over to degree, highlight it, and hit enter to make sure that you actually get it in degree mode. Once you are in degree mode, I'm going to go ahead and quit out of this. So hit second in mode. It'll get me back to the original screen. So now I can do 3 divided by, now I need to put in cosine of 30. So sine, cosine, and tangent are sitting right in the middle of your calculator. So I'm going to hit cosine. It will automatically start a set of parentheses for me. I'm going to do 30, close the parentheses, hit enter. And I now know that x is equal to, give me 1 second to check. I didn't specify rounding directions. Go ahead and round to 2 decimal places. Unless the directions say otherwise. So for 6, and we don't have units here, so that's okay. Now, one quick check, has nothing to do with the calculator, is in a right triangle, the hypotenuse is supposed to be the longest side. So just do a quick double check to make sure that this is in fact the longer side compared to the one you were given. So, okay, we're good to go with that part, at least as a quick check. All right, so that takes care of problem number 1. I'm going to go ahead and slide over to number 2 and go through the same kind of process here. All right, I know this 79-degree angle. I know this side is labeled X. Obviously, that's the missing one that we're looking for. And this side is labeled 8. So let's go ahead and label the picture. So my reference angle is right here. If I go and use the right angle, the hypotenuse is the one that's empty. So I'm not going to worry about labeling that one. Across the triangle is my O, and right next to the 78 is my adjacent. So which one of the trig functions uses O and A, or opposite and adjacent? That would be tangent. So tangent of 79 is equal to opposite over adjacent. So you absolutely can put in that 1 and go ahead and cross multiply. So x is equal to 8 tangent of 79. Well, in this case, we don't need to do anything else other than put this in the calculator. So 8 tangent 79, close the parentheses, hit enter. So x is equal to 41.16. Again, it's the side of a triangle, so we're going to go ahead and just say it's whatever it is. We don't have the units for this one. Okay. It seems a little bit ridiculous to have one side be 41 and one side be 8. However, this triangle is very much not drawn to scale. This angle of 79, this would be an angle of 11. And so there is a drastic difference between those. And so it actually does make sense. All right. Problem number 3 here. Let's see what we've got. We have an angle here of 15, a side of 9, and a side of x. Let's go ahead and label those out. So here's our reference angle of 15. This is opposite, and that's hypotenuse. If we need O and H, we're talking about sine of 15 is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. Whoops, hold on one second. Let me put an X there for hypotenuse. Let's go ahead and give that a denominator of 1. So 9 is equal to X sine of 15. Go ahead and divide both sides by sine of 15. And this is the fraction that then goes in the calculator. So 9 divided by sine 15. Whoops, not 150. Delete. Too much. Okay. So let's see. X is equal to 34.77. Okay. And that takes care of problem number 3. Let's do it one more time for number 4 here. And this one's a little bit weird because we actually have a lot of information. So we're given this angle of 30. We know this side's 5, we know this side's 10, and we know that side's x. So if we do our labeling, this is our 30-degree angle. Our hypotenuse is right here, our opposite is here, and our adjacent is here. Now we actually have 2 options. We could use adjacent and opposite, or we could use adjacent and hypotenuse. What you wouldn't want to do is use opposite and hypotenuse because we know those, and so that's not going to help us find x. So either you can set up sine of 30 equals, wait a minute, no, I just said we couldn't use opposite and adjacent. Hold on, back up. How about cosine, which would be adjacent over hypotenuse? Or we could set up tangent of 30, which would be opposite over adjacent. Now, whichever one floats your boat, because here's the thing, both of these are going to give you the same exact answer. If we cross multiply in the first case with cosine, we would get x equals 10. I don't know why I keep trying to write sine. It's actually cosine of 30. And I, of course, gave myself no room to write. So let me slide that down. There we go. Okay. So now if I put in 10 cosine of 30 in my calculator, I'm going to get 8.66 for x. Okay. So that's if I solve it using cosine. If I solve using tangent, so 5 is equal to x tangent of 30. So divide both sides by tangent of 30, of course. And let's see, we're going to have 5 divided by tangent of 30. Oops, I don't know why I just tried to put another set of parentheses in there. And I'm having a parentheses issues here. Hold on a second. So 5 divided by tangent 30, close the parentheses. There we go. And it shouldn't really be a shock that you're getting the exact same answer. Okay, so it's not going to matter whether you solve this with your tangent or with cosine, either one will work. I also just realized that I did all the problems with the TI graphing calculator with Calculator 84. So what I'll do is I will stop using this one for right now, and I'll pop up Desmos for the next couple of problems and see if I can show you Desmos that way. All right, so problem number 5, 6, and 7, if you take a look at them, they are all identical, okay? And what we're trying to find is a missing angle. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do one of these as sine. We're going to do one of these as cosine and one of these as tangent. Okay. So this way you can see that no matter which one you pick, if you're given enough information, you can use any of them. So for sine, we know we want to talk about the opposite side and the hypotenuse. There we go. And so when we set this up, we would talk about the sine of theta is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. Now, in this case, it's not going to be terribly helpful to cross multiply because it's not that we need to figure out, x isn't over here. We're trying to figure out what theta is. And so to find theta, I need to get rid of sine. Now, everything in math has an opposite operation, including your trig functions. And in trig functions, the opposite operations are either referred to as inverse sine, with the little -1 here, or sometimes they're referred to as arc sine or arc cosine or arc tangent. However you want to say it, I tend to default to inverse sine or inverse cosine. We need to find it. So this is going to be a little trickier on Desmos. Okay. So what we're going to do is sine and inverse sine cancel each other out. That's the whole point of doing an inverse. And so all that's left is theta is equal to the inverse sine of 4/5. Now, just like in the Calculator 84, we wanted to make sure that we had degree mode. We need to do degree mode in Desmos as well. So go up to the little wrench here, tap on it. And down at the bottom, it either gives you radians or degrees. You want to make sure degrees is highlighted. You don't have to hit enter after it. It'll toggle back and forth. Just make sure degrees is highlighted and then tap outside of it to make that part disappear. Now, sine, tangent, and cosine don't exist here. They're not going to be found in the ABCs. But right here where it says functions, the very first function group that pops up is trig. And if you look here, sine, cosine, tangent, cosecant, secant, cotangent. So if you needed to do any of the problems from before, where you had sine of 30 times 10, you could do that with this. Now I want the inverse sine, so I'm going to grab inverse sine here, make sure it's the one that pops up with the -1 there, and then I'm going to put in 4/5, and it already gives me the answer right here. So theta is equal to, again, round off to 2 decimal places, please, 53.13. Now this is an angle measure, so it's in degrees, please. Okay, so that's if you did sine, right? We got an answer, awesome. I'm gonna go ahead and slide over. Let's say you're gonna do cosine. Well, cosine is gonna use this angle, and then we're going to talk about adjacent and hypotenuse. So we would have the cosine of theta is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse, so 3/5. And again, everything in math has an opposite operation, an inverse operation. So in this case, it's inverse cosine. Cosine and inverse cosine cancel each other out. Again, that's the whole purpose of using them. So we're left with theta equals the inverse cosine of 3/5. So I have Desmos up. I'm going to go ahead and use it again. Now, it shouldn't be any shock. We're going to get the same answer as the last problem, but this is just showing you that it does work. So we're going to grab the functions. I'm going to go ahead and grab my inverse cosine here, and then the fraction in this case is 3/5. And shocking, right? There's the same answer. I would actually be more shocked if you got a different answer. And if you did get a different answer, you might want to check that you're still in degree mode, those types of things to make sure that nothing went goofy. Now, I'm going to actually close out Desmos and open up Calculate 84 to show you how to find the stuff in Calculate 84 for problem number 7 here. So number 7, we're talking about tangent. So from theta, tangent is going to be opposite and adjacent. So let's see here. Do I have space on the side? I don't. All right, so tangent of theta is equal to opposite over adjacent. I'm going to use the inverse of tangent on both sides. Okay, those will cancel. Tangent and inverse tangent cancel. So that leaves me theta is equal to the inverse tangent of 4/3. And I said I was going to do this one on Calculate 84 because some of you may have your own graphing calculators. Now, I'm going to do a quick check in the mode. It didn't change. Okay, good. So we have sine, cosine, and tangent, and right above them in blue are the inverse sine, inverse cosine, and inverse tangent. So to get to blue, you're going to hit the little blue button, which is second. Hit tangent, make sure it pops up with little -1. All right, double check that. Then 4/3, close the parentheses, enter. Again, we knew we were going to get this answer of 53.13 degrees, but I'm just showing you how to use the different technology to get it. All right, 2 more quick little problems here, and then I promise we will be done with this video. All right, problem number 8, it's just figure out what theta is. So here's theta. We've got, let's see, this is my hypotenuse, this is adjacent, so we have to use cosine here. So cosine of theta is equal to adjacent over the hypotenuse. I'm going to do the inverse cosine of both sides. That absolutely is going to go right into a calculator. All right, so 11/50, close the parentheses, and I'm going to get a theta value of 77.29 degrees. Okay, so that's problem number 8. And last one here is problem number 9, is a little word problem. I'm going to slide over Desmos, or not Desmos, that's calculated before. Okay. So a little word problem here. Now, when we've got these word problems, we know we need to translate them into a picture, okay? I am not an artist, not by any means, and so when I see a problem like this, I'm going to quickly read it. All right, I've read it. We've got a tree. Here's an eagle. Here's the mouse, all right? That's the extent of the pictures I make. If you want to make it, you know, a pretty tree with an eagle, you go for it. I don't need that to do this problem. But I do need to fill in the information that's given to me. So a mouse is 20 yards from the tree. The eagle is 10 yards above the ground. What is the angle that the mouse looks up to see the eagle? So that's this angle right here. So based off of my pretty little picture, I know this is adjacent. I know this is opposite. So we are talking about tangent. So tangent of theta is equal to opposite over adjacent. Do the inverse tangent of both sides. You could reduce 10/20. You don't have to, though. So let's see. Inverse tangent of 10/20. I just make the calculator do my work for me. So the mouse is looking up at an angle of 26.57 degrees. So that would be the angle of elevation from the mouse to the eagle. All right, lots and lots of information in this video about how to use Desmos, a little bit of information about how to use Calculate 84, and again, a lot of information on how to find missing angles and sides. If you have any questions or concerns, pop in to the Zoom meetings that we have daily or send me a message in Canvas or an email. Thanks so much.